Şu tepedeki ışık. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Do you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Ahmed.
Perfect.
So you can
Perfect.
start. Okay, I think you can start, Roland.
How many people we have?
You can start.
Herkese iyi akşamlar diliyorum. Bu akşamki konumuz Portekiz Golden vizesi fon yatırımlarıyla nasıl alınır? Hatta daha sonra vatandaşlığa nasıl yürünür, nasıl elde edilir? Bu konuda eminim bir takım şeyler duydunuz, okudunuz ama havada kalmış bazıları vardır. Bunların hepsini toparlamayı düşünüyoruz bu akşam. Benim adım Bülent Uygur. International Emlak firmasının kurucu ortaklarındanım. Bundan önce de Portekiz'de biz emlak yatırımıyla Golden Vizi işi yaptık. Senelerce. Bunu Chris'in firması Domera Capital ve Pares Avukatlık Bürosu da çalışan ortak Andre ile yaptık. Çok güzel çalışmalarımız oldu. Şimdi bundan böyle bu sunumumuz sonucunda karar verirseniz bu yolculuğa biz de çıkmaya hazırız. Chris'in firması size lojistik desteği verecek. Andre de kontratlarınızla ilgili sizin yanınızda olacak. Tabii fon yatırımı deyince o kadar kolay bir şey değil yani. Emlak görüyorsunuz en sonunda dokunabiliyorsunuz ama fonda çok dikkatli olmanız lazım. Bu yüzden biz fon araştırmasına girdik. Yaklaşık 6 ay kadar belli başlı fonları izledik, Portekiz fonlarını. Bunlardan içinde sizlere faydalı olabilecek ve gerçek iyi yatırımları keşfettik. Biz bu yolculuk sırasında size fonları da göstereceğiz ve bu fonlarla gerekli detayları almanızı sağlayacağız. Gerekli toplantıları aranje edeceğiz. Şimdilik bu kadar. Sizlere hayırlı, faydalı bir toplantı gecesi temenni ediyoruz firmalar olarak. Görüşmek üzere. Okay, Chris, I finished.
Thank you, Roland. Hello, everyone. My name is Cristóvão Matos, and I'm the managing director of Nomera Capital, an investment advisory firm based in Lisbon, Portugal. And I'm very happy to be your host for today's webinar on the Portugal Golden Visa through investment funds. Before we move on, given that we are broadcasting first time for YouTube and LinkedIn, Bulent and Hamed, can you please just share the link that I've sent you, just to make sure that everyone is watching the right stream? it's on your WhatsApp. Okay, so if you please reach out to the participants that were registered, just to make sure that they are able to attend. Okay. So in terms of our agenda for today, we will start with André Rey from Pares. We will provide an overview of the Golden Visa program as of 2025, including the recent changes to the nationality law. Following that, I will give you a quick overview of the investment options for the program, trying to offer you some insights into how these funds operate in Portugal and how we can assist you in finding the best investment solutions for the program. Okay. We expect our webinar to take around 1 hour, 1 hour and 15, including the questions and answers. Feel free to interact with us through the chat window on the right side if you are attending the session through this platform, or you can also use the chat facilities in LinkedIn or YouTube. Okay, we will be monitoring those. But of course, if some of the questions remains unanswered, then we'll get back to you with the answer later. Okay, so let's move on. Starting with a brief introduction about us and our model. Okay, so these Golden Visa Funds is a joint and independent collaboration between Nomera Capital, my firm, which specializes in the investment advisory. Okay. Pares, one of the leading general law firms in Portugal, and Banco Atlântico Europa, a bank specialized in serving foreign clients and one of the fastest to open a bank account in Portugal. Okay. Together, our purpose here is to offer a end-to-end service for the Portugal Golden Visa, and we have successfully, over time, processed more than 200 Golden Visa applications and representing more than 30 different nationalities and altogether benefiting over 500 family members. On our website, www.goldenvisafunds.pt, you can find the most up-to-date information about the program. We are proud of that be one of the most reliable source of information on the Portugal Golden Visa program. It covers all aspects of the residency, citizenship, and investment options through funds. And we also offer a Golden Visa Funds database, which is a unique resource for evaluating the best investment options under the Portugal Golden Visa program, which I will present later. Okay. In today's webinar, we'll cover the Golden Visa program updates for 2025 and introduce you to the investment options. And the next steps is scheduling a complimentary individual call with us for those of you that want to learn more about the program, okay, and also to be able to tailor our advice to your unique situation and requirements. And finally, if you decide to move forward with the process, we will guide you through the client onboarding process, helping you selecting the funds and then introducing you to the fund managers and finalizing all the process, submitting, which ends with submitting the Golden Visa application. Okay. So without further ado, let's move to the first presentation from André Rey. André is a senior associate at Pares law firm, and he will give us an update about the Portugal Golden Visa program as of today.
Thank you, Gustavo. So basically starting with the basics regarding the Golden Visa. So what is really the Golden Visa? So it's a residency by investment program, meaning that non-EU citizens that complete an eligible investment in Portugal are able to get residency in Portugal. Okay, the Golden Visa is a special type of residence permit with special rights, and that special right being mainly the possibility to benefit from all residency rights, so the Schengen visa-free travel, bringing your family members along, the right to stay, to live, to study in Portugal if you'd like to, but only having to stay in Portugal an average of 7 days per year. And this is very important when compared to other residency options where the applicants need to stay for almost a full year in Portugal in order to be able to benefit from residency. The Golden Visa, in terms of the process, is very similar to any other type of residency, with the exception that you don't with the minimal stay period. Okay, so it's basically a resident card valid for 2 years, and every 2 years the applicants can renew that residency card and receive a new card valid for an extra 2 years. Okay, in this situation, the Golden Visa applicant, the only thing that he needs to do is to keep the investment and keep the conditions as regards to the family members in order to be able to continue to benefit from these rights. So moving on to the next one, in terms of investment, and this is probably something that many of our participants already know. So up until 2024, real estate, so buying a property in Portugal, first a residential property and then a commercial property, was an eligible investment for the Golden Visa. So you could buy a property by investing around 350,000 euros at a minimum and get the Golden Visa. But the Portuguese government and many other EU governments have shut down real estate as an option to get the Golden Visa. And so this brings us to 2025 and for the future of the Portuguese Golden Visa program, where basically the investment in private equity and venture capital funds, so a financial investment, is basically the most attractive way, if not the only realistic way to get the Golden Visa. And so what type of investment is this? Moving on to the next slide. So it's basically a passive investment, meaning that, as some of you probably already invest in the stock market, for example, invest in ETFs. So this is a very similar investment, meaning that basically there is an entity that it's a fund manager that runs one or several funds and collects capital from several investors in Portugal and across the globe. And basically, we investors, the only thing that we do is to choose the fund or funds that are suitable to our investment and risk profile. We select those funds, we invest in them, and then basically we just sit tight. We play a passive role, and we wait for the fund manager to do their job, which is basically to run the fund, to decide what investments to make, when to liquidate those investments, and then they pay back to the investors. Okay. Not all funds, however, are eligible for the Golden Visa, so there are some conditions that need to be fulfilled in order for an investment to be eligible. First of all, the investors need to invest a minimum amount of 500,000 euros. However, this amount does not need to be invested in a single fund. Okay, so it's very typical under this new Golden Visa program that investors split their investments through 2 or 3 funds with different investment profiles, different risk profiles as well, in order basically to not put all the eggs in the same basket, to diversify their portfolios and to lower their risk. Okay, what we do here in Golden Visa Funds platform is that we have already done a selection of all the funds that are eligible for the Golden Visa, but we will dive deeper into that further ahead. Besides the 500,000 amount, the fund cannot be real estate aimed. Okay, so it cannot be a fund that is aimed to buying real estate and selling real estate. They need to be Portuguese funds and the maturity of the fund needs to be at least 5 years. So the duration of the fund needs to be at least 5 years when you place your investment. And finally, at least 60% of the fund investment needs to be performed in Portuguese companies. Okay. So moving on to the next one, just to give you an idea of how the Golden Visa process is structured. So the first thing that the clients always do is, of course, to select their advisors. And this means not only legal advisors, but also the financial advisors. So basically here represented by Cristóvão, that will guide through the available investment options and ones that we feel that are most appropriate to our clients' profiles. Once the advisors are selected, then the clients need to open a bank account in Portugal, and this is mandatory for the Golden Visa process. Okay, so basically the funds need to come from your home or residence countries to a Portuguese bank account that you own in Portugal, and then from that Portuguese bank account is where the investment is done. Once the bank account is set up, the client transfers the funds to Portugal and then subscribes one or several funds that they have selected with our help. Once the investment is completed, and this from our experience takes between 1.5 months, then we can submit your Golden Visa application. And this is basically everything is done online in these two initial phases. So the clients don't actually need to come to Portugal if they don't want to, okay? However, we always recommend our clients to the extent that they can, to travel to Portugal, to meet the country, to meet the advisors, to meet the bank, and especially to meet the fund managers. So basically to shake hands with the people they will be trusting these funds to. Believe that this is super important, and so this is always our advice. However, we understand that some clients may have some difficulties in traveling to Portugal in this initial stage, or they are comfortable with online meetings. So just to let you know that it's fully possible to do everything remotely, including opening a bank account for the Golden Visa. Once the Golden Visa application is submitted, the immigration authorities in Portugal will basically process the application, and within around 6 months you will be called to an immigration appointment in Portugal. Okay, so this is really only the first time that the clients need to come to Portugal. This is the phase 3 biometrics, and this needs to be completed not only by the investor but by all the family members that are joining the application. Okay, so under one single investment of €500,000, the investor, as we will see further ahead, can bring on their children, their wives, their spouses, their parents, and so all of the family members need to attend an immigration appointment, which is a very simple appointment. There will be no interviews, no questions. So basically they will just take your fingerprints, your photographs, and your signature, and then they will process the issuance of your resident card. This resident card, as I told you when we first started, will be valid for 2 years. And so every 2 years, the clients basically need to repeat the same proceeding, which is to come back to Portugal to renew their resident cards and receive a new one that will be valid for an extra 2 years. During this 2 years validity period, clients and the family members need to have stayed 14 days in Portugal in total. Okay, so this doesn't mean that it needs to be 7 days in each year. You can combine the 14 in just 1 year if you'd like, or you can split them however you prefer. And then finally, we reach the end line where basically the clients have two alternatives. One, which is to just keep with a permanent residence card valid for 5 years, which they can keep on renewing for as long as they want, or they can apply for citizenship under the rules that are in force at that time. So in order to give you some information, because this is a common question on which family members can the investors bring under the Golden Visa application. And so they are basically spouses, and this includes non-married couples, so people in civil partnerships can also apply for the Golden Visa under one investment. Then secondly, the children, and this includes the children not only from the investor, but children that are only from the spouse, for example, provided that either they are 18 years old, and that's plain simple, no need to prove anything, or if they are 18 years old, they will need to be single and studying, okay? And these conditions, these two conditions of being single and studying must be there basically on the date of each renewal of the Golden Visa, so that they keep on renewing it until they are able to apply for permanent residency or eventually to citizenship. And finally, the parents, either from the investor or the spouse's parents. And again, if they are under 65 years old, we will need to prove that they are economically dependent from the investor or the spouse. If they are over 65 years old, no need to prove anything. They can apply and it will be a plain, simple application. Now, to give you an overview of the timeline. So basically, let's imagine that you start the process in early 2026. So basically, you start by opening a bank account, selecting the funds, completing the investment. That will be the first square in the top left corner. And so, as I told you before, this process takes between 1 and 1.5 months from our experience. If you do this, let's say January, February, then around the end of 2026, you should have your immigration appointment in Portugal, where, as I told you, you will need to be physically present. And then you will here you will receive your resident card that will be valid for 2 years. So that throws us to 2028. That will be the date of the first renewal of your Golden Visa card. And during these 2 years, you need to have completed the 14-day stay, you and your family members, okay? 2028, you will receive a new resident card, valid for an extra 2 years, and that goes up to 2030, okay, when you have the second renewal appointment. And then finally, in 2032, you are able to apply for permanent residency, okay? Important notes here has regards, first of all, to the children. So the children only need to stay single and studying in this scenario in 2026, 2028, 2030, and 2032, okay? So after 2032, after they get the permanent residence card, which will be valid for 5 years, they no longer need to meet these conditions in order to still benefit from residency and applying for citizenship. Secondly, 2032 would be the date on which you could basically liquidate your investments, sell your investments and get your money back, because you will have a permanent resident card that is not directly linked with the investment that you have made. And finally, after 2032, you no longer need to worry about spending any number of days in Portugal. So this is not legally mandatory. So you can just enjoy the 5 years permanent resident card, travel to Portugal or to other Schengen countries only if you'd like to, and basically wait until 2036. That will be the date on which you have completed 10 years of residency and you are able to apply for citizenship. And citizenship typically takes around 2 years to be issued. So this means that in 2038, you should be receiving your Portuguese passports, okay? So overall, and this of course is already under the new rules, which I'm sure that most of you have heard of, under which a period of 10 years is required for Golden Visa and other resident card holders to apply for Portuguese citizenship. So overall, 12 years between starting the process and having the passport in your hands, which we know it's a bummer compared to the previous 5-year rule. But we believe that this is still very attractive, especially when compared to other Golden Visa programs in Europe. I'm speaking about, for example, the Spanish or the Greek ones, where a permanent residency is required in order for clients to be eligible for citizenship. We understand that this changes a lot because people will need to basically relocate their entire social center to another country. And although the Portuguese government has surprisingly decided to change the rules regarding the residency period, it did not change the rules regarding the requirement of having a permanent residency in Portugal. And so that throws us to the final slide regarding citizenship. So that the requirements are basically the 10 years residency that we have already spoke of. Then secondly, the basic knowledge of the Portuguese language and the Portuguese culture. And this can be evidenced either through a government organized test that takes place 3 times per year, or by attending an eligible course, okay? And we have partnerships with language schools that provide these type of courses. And then finally, the non-conviction for crimes punishable in Portugal with a prison sentence, okay? Finally, and just to wrap up, a very short information regarding the 10 years. I know that some of you have already been following up the latest changes on the Golden Visa and the citizenship law in Portugal. And so basically where we stand right now. So the law, the new changes are not yet into force, okay? They have been approved by the government in late October, but the Portuguese Socialist Party decided to ask the Portuguese Constitutional Court to review whether these changes were in accordance with the law, okay? And the Constitutional Court just issued a decision on this week, on the 15th of December. And what the Constitutional Court basically said is the 10-year rule is not against the Constitution, but the change of the date on which the 10 years start counting violates the Constitution. So basically, as of the current law, the residency period is counted from the date of the application. So in the example that we have just went through, it would start from 2026 right away, early 2026. Once your Golden Visa application is submitted, the clock starts counting. But the government decided to change this, and basically the government's proposal says that the 10 years start counting from the date the first resident card is received, and that would throw us a couple of months later, okay? And this amendment was ruled as breaching the Portuguese constitutional. And so basically the citizenship bill will go back to the parliament for amendments and final approval. It's possible in theory that the government and the parliament still approves this change, but from our experience, and because this opens the door for litigation if the government decides to just approve the bill as is, regardless of the Constitutional Court ruling, then this opens the door for litigation in the future. So we are confident that the government will basically back down from this amendment, and therefore the 10 years residency period will be counted from the date of application, so in early 2026 in the previous scenario. And that sums it up from my end. In the end of this webinar, we will still have a Q&A section where I'm sure that some of you will still have some questions, which I would be happy to answer. But now I will hand it over to Cristóvão to cover more on the investment side.
Okay, thank you very much, André. So now we will move to the investment side. And I would like to start with a positive news and an important reason on why you should consider investing in Portugal. The magazine The Economist recently ranked Portugal as the best economy of the year for 2025. And this is very relevant. I know that for many of you, the main goal is getting the Schengen visa. Okay, it's your main concern. But I also believe that the quality of your investment by itself should also be a priority, okay, because you don't want to lose money on your investment. And when you look at your investment from that perspective, Portugal at the moment stand out as one of the most attractive investment destinations globally, okay? So why should you consider investing in Portugal? And let's try to sum it up according to the main reasons or the value proposition for your investment. So first, it allows you to diversify your investments, and this, I believe, this is very important for investors that have their main portfolio or almost all portfolio located to a different currency, for instance, like most of you. So diversifying and having the option to allocate part of your capital to a strong performing economy like the Portuguese, it's a benefit for your future, okay, in terms of wealth growing and capital preservation. Second, you gain access to the Schengen area, which gives you free travel across the entire Schengen area. And as I mentioned, I believe that is the main reason for most of you. And finally, as André mentioned, Portugal is unique in Europe in that it offers a path to citizenship without requiring the permanent physical residency. And this is unique. It doesn't happen in Greece. It doesn't happen in Italy, in Hungary, in Latvia, whatever, okay? So basically, you have a path to citizenship now, 10 years, but without having to move your family center to Portugal, okay? And this is also important. So, in terms of the investments, and again, the main vehicle for accessing the program as of today is through these funds. And so, what are these funds in general? And trying to simplify, simplifying it. So basically, a fund is a vehicle that raises capital from different pools of investors. It can be individual investors, like most of you. It can be institutional investors, like banks, pension funds, or groups of investors, like, for instance, family offices, and others. Okay, so the funds raise capital from these kind of investors, and then they deploy the capital in companies, in either private companies, investing in private companies, okay, or in companies that are listed in the stock market. So basically, when they invest in private companies, they position themselves as experts in acquiring strong companies to scale their growth, to make these companies more valuable over the long term, and executing profitable strategies. So this has all to do with acquiring, growing the company, and then exiting for profit. When they invest in the stock market, they should be able to select listed companies in the stock market for capital growth, or in another more conservative strategy through corporate bonds, focused mainly on capital preservation. So one of the most common questions, namely from Turkish investors, is my investment guaranteed from any kind of government backing program, for instance? And the honest answer is that no, it is not, okay? And in investing, other than bank deposits, there's absolutely no guarantee. But as Warren Buffett famously said, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. And his mentor, Benjamin Graham, he reminds us that successful investing is about managing risk, not avoiding. So investing has all to do with managing risks. So what are the risks that you should avoid? Okay, and where we can help you. One of the most relevant risks in these investments, Golden Visa investment in Portugal, has to do with the quantity of new fund managers and new funds that have been launched in the market. Okay, more than 500 new funds, for instance. Okay, many of these funds are also eligible for the Golden Visa. As you may imagine, there's the incentive from this program given to these entities to raise capital from a source or a pool of capital that typically is not the most common for raising capital for these kind of funds, okay? Because most of these players and in this industry, their main source of capital is from institutional investors. And so with the Golden Visa program, the government opened the door for these funds to raise capital from individual investors like you, because you are investing a significant amount, the 500,000 euros, that is considered, you are considered by the program, okay, as a qualified or a credit investor that have access to more complex investments. But as you may expect, if we are dealing with an institutional investor, okay, these institutional investors, they have more people in their payroll that are specialized in doing a thoughtful due diligence of these funds, which does not happen with a traditional retail investor or individual investor as you. Second source of risk. Nowadays, you will find in this market, these Golden Visa funds markets, funds for all kind of tastes. You have renewable energies funds, you have cars, classical cars collectibles, okay? You have investments in agricultural projects like olive trees, for instance. You have also some funds that are promoting indirect real estate investments, for instance, in hotels. You have funds that invest in acquiring football clubs. You have funds that raise capital to invest in cryptocurrencies. So you have funds for all kinds of tastes. And of course, this is a major risk if you are not able to understand what these funds are doing and what are the underlying risks, okay? So what is our role here and how we can help you? Our purpose. So our purpose here is to, first of all, to make sure that the funds that you are considering are eligible for the Golden Visa. Second, to give you some insights on the quality and the reputation of the fund manager. Is this a reliable company with a solid track record or not? And finally, among all the funds that we can consider from reliable and reputable fund managers, according to your profile, because you may want to take more risk or less risk. So the investment should also be shaped according to what fits best your investment profile. Okay. So just to give you a brief idea of the kind of role that we can, in the kind of discussion that we will be able to, in a later session, to discuss with you. So basically, these are, we have a classification in terms of all the funds that are available in the market, okay, according to different metrics in different terms. And so we have them in a catalog according to these terms. So basically, in terms of whether they are open-ended funds or closed-ended funds, meaning that open-ended funds are funds that invest in public listed companies, companies that are listed in the stock market. And the main benefit here is that you can buy and sell whenever you want. They are liquid funds, okay? So you can buy today and sell after 1 or 2 years. And worth mentioning here that when you invest for the program, your commitment is for 5 years. And although you might choose an open-ended fund, you still, if you want to keep your golden visa, you still need to keep your investment for 5 years, okay? Regardless if it's open-ended fund or closed-ended fund, okay? On the other side, on closed-ended funds, these are funds that invest in private companies, okay? And can be through debt instruments. In that case, they are called private debt funds, or through equity, private equity funds. In terms of division of these funds in the market, overall, about 10% of the funds that are eligible, or less, slightly less, are open-ended, okay? And 90% of the options available are closed-ended funds, okay? But I will not enter into much detail here. Now, I just want, as promised, to show you our golden visa funds database, so that you can have a taste of what we can do for you. This is our website, okay? That's, of course, I invite you to explore. There is a lot of information, educational information here. And now I'm going to open the Portugal Golden Visa Funds database, okay? So here you can explore the different options with our guidance. Most of these funds, they are quite complex. So typically you will need some guidance, and you have the view of the fund managers. And let me just show you some of the information. Okay, you have detailed information in terms of the entity. Okay, key people in the entity. Okay, track record of the funds. Including companies, the portfolio companies of the past funds that were managed by these companies, okay, and also some insights from us, okay. You have documentation that you can explore, and also details of the funds that are eligible for the golden visa. Okay, how far they are in terms of the capital raising progress. Okay, some metrics like risk level, and I mean a lot of information here. Moreover, you have 2 additional tools. One that allows you to explore open funds and compare open funds. Okay. For instance, let me give you an example here. Okay, so you can select the funds. Okay, you can compare with the main index in Portugal, which is the PSI20. Okay, so you can see. Then you can also compare net fees, because these funds have fees. Okay, and then you have here some metrics in terms of returns, annualized returns before and after fees, so that you have the sensitivity of how the fees charged by the funds will impact your returns. Okay, and also detailed information about the portfolio of these funds. Okay, for instance, in this particular case, you can see the composition of the companies that these funds are invested in at the last date they have reported, in this case October 2025, and you can also check the current, given that this is a public listed company. Okay, you can compare their actual position if they are losing money or gaining money according to the last quotation. Okay, I mean, so you have here a lot of information. And you have also a similar tool for private equity funds, which is more complex here. Okay, but let me show you an example. Okay, you have again information of the funds. Again, these are funds that raise capital and then deploy in companies. So they are going to find suitable companies to invest in, okay, and then deploying capital raised from investors. And this chart shows for a typical private equity fund, okay, the progress in terms of the investor cash flow, the blue line, okay, the net asset value, okay, so this is the value of their portfolio that is growing over time, and also capital deployment, dividends, and exits. And this is a bit technical, but here, and this is the most important part, you can see what you should expect.
Sorry to interrupt, Cristóvão, but I think the screen is not showing the database.
Okay.
We are still seeing the slide.
Thank you, André. Can you see now?
Yeah, now it's good. So maybe you can start.
Yeah, let me go back.
Database, yeah.
And again, sorry. Okay, so let me go back. So basically, the Golden Visa investor, the Golden Visa funds database, we have information about collecting information about the funds that are and fund managers that are eligible for that have funds that are eligible for the Golden Visa. Here you have information about fund managers, funds, and two tools. One to compare open funds and another to compare private equity returns. Okay, so let me give you a brief overview of the kind of information that you are able to find here. So you have a brief overview about some indicators about the entity, key people in the fund manager. You have track record, okay, about comparable funds managed by this institution, okay, and also details about the portfolio companies of past funds and returns, some return metrics, insights, okay, some insights that were collected by us, and then documentation also provided, and the details about the funds that are open, that are available for raising capital, okay, at the moment. And in this page, the details of the fund, you have information about risk level, target size, how they are in terms of progress of capital raising, okay, and more detail, again, insights about the fund itself. And then in the compare open funds tool, you can select some funds for comparison, okay, here, and you can check how they have been performing over different time intervals, okay, so you can choose here. You can also include the main index to compare how these funds perform against the benchmark, the index of the Portuguese stock market, including also, and you have also the option to consider the fees, because when you invest in these funds, they have fees, so it's worth analyzing these, including the fees, and you have here, before the performance statistics, before fees and after fees, returns, annualized returns, volatility, and other metrics, okay? Moreover, you have details of their portfolio at the time of the last report, which in this case was October 25, but you can navigate back in time and see exactly what were the investments of these funds, okay? And so, and you can also check the current position of the funds in terms of each of the companies that are included in their portfolio, okay? If they are losing money or gaining money, according to the last quotation of this particular company. On the private equity returns, you can also compare the returns of the private equity funds, which are more complex in terms of their nature. There are many variables here, and given that these are funds that deploy capital to private companies, and the timings of these deployments are variable. This brings a lot of extra complexity that we will have to address and discuss with you in detail. So what you find here is a theoretical model of how a fund, private equity fund, operates, and you can explore what is expected in terms of your returns, okay, your cash flows, okay, since you invest, okay, and how many years you should expect until you start getting some money back, depending on the fund, okay, and you have this exercise here. If you invest 150,000 euros in this fund, so it's expected, okay, to generate this amount of money that will comprise in 3 different parcels: return of capital, a preferred return, and the residual split, okay? And then you have an annualized return rate, an internal rate of return, okay? And also some metrics like this distribution over paid in. But again, I will not enter into much detail here. This is something that we can explore later in a discussion. But again, you have a lot of information here about all these funds, so this is very rich in terms of information. Okay, you can check a lot of the metrics that will give you the edge or to better equip you, like if you were a professional investor, an institutional investor. Okay, the key here is that, and the key idea is that you are investing in funds that typically are reserved for institutional investors. These institutional investors have a lot of people working in due diligence and inquiring these funds to make sure that they understand what they are doing, and that they have the profile suitable for their investments. Okay, and so what we try to do here is to equip you with some kind of tools that will help you to analyze the information and to make sure that you make the right investment. Okay, so these let me move to the presentation, and now we will enter the Q&A session. Okay, here we go. And now, please feel free to ask your questions. You can ask or you can use the chat and write in English or Turkish as you prefer. Bulent and Ahmet, I believe that you are monitoring the chat. Are there any questions for us?
Yes, Chris. Levent has two questions. One of them, do I need to maintain a balance of euro 500,000 at all times? What happens if the fund loses money in the course of 5 years?
Yeah, so I had already answered this in the chat, but Mr. Levent, I think he lost connection. But basically, and this is an important question, it's not the golden visa remains unaffected if your investment falls below the €500,000 at any given time. Okay, so even in the worst possible scenario where your investment value goes down to 400, 300, 200, whatever, the golden visa remains unaffected, because what matters is that you have invested €500,000, not that you have capped an investment evaluated higher than €500,000. Okay.
The second question is, what happens if I want to withdraw funds before maturity in 5 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I had also answered that before in the chat, but basically this will depend on the type of fund. So if it's an open fund, so a typical fund that invests in the stock market, then you can take your money out, you can redeem your investment at any given time. Okay. This, of course, means that you will not be able to renew the golden visa because you have not capped your investment for the minimum period of 5 years. But you can, for example, if you need the money for some reason, or if you change your mind regarding the golden visa program, if it's a public fund, you can do so and take your money out. But if it's a closed end fund, then you can only redeem your investment at fund maturity. And typically these funds have a maturity ranging between 6 and 8 years. It will depend from fund to fund, but this is the general rule. Public funds, you can take your money out at any given time. Closed funds, you should wait until maturity before being able to redeem your investment.
Worth mentioning that although for the private funds, okay, or closed-ended funds, although the maturity can be range between 6 to 8 years, sometimes 10, as Andre mentioned, you should expect to receive cash flows before the maturity date. Okay, so these are funds that invest in companies. The company starts paying back dividends, or they sell companies along the way, and when that happens, they distribute money back to investors. So this is not like something that you invest, for instance, €200,000 in a private equity fund, for instance, and you receive the full amount of money, your committed capital plus the upside at the end, you should expect some interim cash flows along the way. Okay. Are there any more questions?
Yeah, that's thing all.
I think we are closing this program for tonight. We don't have any more questions.
Okay, Bulent and Ahmet, do you have any question in mind that may be relevant for Turkish investors?
Perhaps we have to translate this presentation in Turkish. We can do this. There are some people asking, are we going to also have Turkish version as well?
Yes, sure. We can do it and then share with those people. Sure.
Do you want me to close?
Yes, please. If there are no more questions, we can close.
Evet, bu gece bu kadar. Umarım faydalı olmuşuzdur sizlere. Katıldığınız için çok teşekkür ederiz. Beni ve Ahmet Bey'i ne zaman isterseniz arayabilirsiniz. Ayrıca gene bu şekilde yahut da sizin mekanınıza da gelerek bütün bunları biz Türkçe olarak da size anlatabiliriz arzu ediyorsanız. Bu da mümkündür. Evet. Tekrar görüşmek üzere. Hoşça kalın. İyi akşamlar.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.